Welcome back to another episode of Trip Report. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about my most recent ayahuasca ceremony. I mentioned in the Dying on Ayahuasca episode how my 7th ceremony was unbelievably challenging, and with my dog Bullet passing in the days that followed, I was unable to sit for the 2nd ceremony that weekend. And honestly, I don't think I was ready. Everything happens for a reason. I had previously mentioned that the 5-MeO study really seemed to snap me out of that death loop funk that I was stuck in, and just 3 weeks later, I had the confidence to attend the makeup for my 8th sitting with ayahuasca. This experience was now 6 months ago on September 17th. My journal entry before the ceremony states, "Guess who's back again. Grateful the facilitator allowed me to make up this session after the unfortunate loss of Bullet. So many coincidences have happened since that weekend, synchronicities that make me believe I was meant to be rescheduled until tonight. Number 1, I simply couldn't let go until the 5-MeO study. Number 2, I discovered my controversy with mushrooms and I made peace with them. Number 3, the facilitator who I mentioned was not present on that previous ceremony because he was visiting family overseas was present tonight. Number 4, seeing the NAET practitioner recently had hopefully cleared some of that stuck energy that was in my vessel. And number 5, there were only 6 other people sitting with ayahuasca this weekend, the smallest group I had ever sat with. And with me joining on Saturday, it made me lucky number 7. I wrote, I feel that tonight is going to be powerful. I think 5-MeO unlocked something in me that needed to be unlocked for some time. I have my Bullet t-shirt on and his paw print with me to hopefully make contact with that amazing soul if I'm able to cross over to the other side or vice versa. Real quick, they suggest that you wear all white for ayahuasca ceremonies. A few years prior, Morgan had made me some t-shirts for Christmas with the dogs printed on them in like super trippy, colorful designs. There was one blue one with Toki only, a black one with both of them, and then no coincidence, the white one was just Bullet. So I wore that to the ceremony, and I also brought the little plaster paw print that the crematory made, and I placed that under my mat for the ceremony. So back to the journal. I wrote, I'm here to heal myself and prepare myself to be able to help others heal themselves as I go forward in life. I sent blessings to all of the loved ones in my life. Many of the intentions are quite personal, so I'll leave them out of this report. Lastly, I wrote, Grandmother, please watch over me tonight and give me the strength I need to surrender and learn. Love you. We all sat down to prepare for the ceremony. Apparently, the Friday night was rough for most of those 6 participants. The facilitator said not to worry, that the dose would be lighter tonight, and when she handed me my cup, which certainly was not light, she said, except for you, Sean, you get a double dose, and we all laughed. They kicked off the silent meditation. As I sat there in silence, I was so easily able to visualize so many amusing and adorable memories of Bullet. The music started, and immediately one of the guys in the group purged. I mean, to the point where it was like he just wasted the ayahuasca because it didn't even have time to kick in and he was already throwing up. And I think even the next day he said that he was just like struggling to hold it down and that he was bummed when he threw it up because he knew that he kind of wasted it. There was a lot of noticeable yawning around the room, even a few out of myself, but I didn't have any visual changes of any kind. The facilitator came by to check in. I explained to her that I wasn't feeling anything yet, and she brought me another probably 3/4 full cup. I wrote, we'll see how this goes. I'm definitely a big fan of pre-dosing the ayahuasca vine prior to ceremony, which we didn't do on that Saturday night, but that 3/4 cup ended up getting me there. A couple episodes ago when I talked to Sam and we were talking about slaying monsters or the demons that are buried in our subconscious, this was the ceremony where I kind of understood what the demons are. As the vision started and I continued deeper into that DMT world, there was something that made everyone laugh. I can't remember if it was something someone said or if it was the music that was played, but I started to smile and I felt my mouth get stuck. I could only kind of half smile and something was locked. So I started to see these very dark visions. I can really only describe them as kind of like snakes made out of smoke, and they were almost taunting me, like in my visual field, just, I don't know, very threatening. As I observed them, the message came through that I had a lot of trauma in adolescence due to having crooked teeth. Now, my teeth weren't crazy out of alignment, And not once did I ever have anyone make fun of me because of them. But again, me being my own worst critic, my own biggest enemy, I hated to see pictures of myself with the misaligned teeth. Years ago, I finally ended up getting Invisalign to straighten everything out, but the flawed programming, or the demons, were already buried in the subconscious. I saw flashes of so many moments where I either avoided being in pictures or refused to smile in pictures because of the teeth. And it reminded me that that was just one piece of that lack of self-image, self-confidence, and self-esteem that needed to go. I asked the grandmother to help me get rid of these demons. And when I asked for help, it kind of seemed like it pissed them off, and they got more aggressive, coming closer in the visions, just looking more malevolent. The nausea began to build, and my whole body started shivering and tremoring as I tried to fight off said demons. I kept cycling through the ayahuasca yawns, which are so big, it feels like your jaw is unhinging, and I definitely had some tears flowing as I continued to fight. Regardless of what I did, the demons wouldn't budge. So finally, I tried to make a compromise. I said, look, I don't need you anymore. I've moved beyond all this nonsense. If I allow you to stay, can you just stay out of the way and stop bringing up any of this negative self-image stuff? And the demons seemed as if they were good with that situation, and the nausea began to subside and the tremors stopped. And a few moments passed, and then I realized demons are liars. It's only a matter of time until they're going to resurface and put me through this bullshit all over again. So I just said, screw it, no deal, we're going to fight. And I called that mother ayahuasca back in. Being in massage therapy school for the past year, I heard several people mention the book, The Body Keeps the Score, which discusses the concept that most chronic pain in the body, particularly in the back, is the result of stored trauma. So it's not uncommon for people to go through several back surgeries or have all sorts of different procedures, but still have pain. I think it's the reason a lot of people turn to opiates, because the drugs mask the emotional pain, which in turn subdues the physical pain, and so begins that dangerous cycle of dependence. I started to feel tension in my middle upper back. Throughout that entire year of different massage modalities, I never seemed to be able to kick that rhomboid pain. I thought to myself, is this where those demons reside? Realizing that something seemed to be stuck in that area for most of my life. I focused on that area and I could see that something was there. It was some sort of muscular armor that had been placed there at a young age, and it no longer served me any purpose. I called the grandmother back in and asked for help just to get this thing out of me. I could feel some warmth building in my upper back, and so strangely, in the creepiest way, I felt something unlatch from my back. 4 individual points, one at a time, disconnecting from between my shoulder blades. And when that 4th anchor point unlatched, I felt it move from my back, through my chest, through my body, and then up into my visual space. It was a bizarre looking, geometric creature with 2 arms and 2 legs, all 4 the same length. I guess the best way to describe it would be almost turtle-like. And I thought, well, shit, I definitely need to get rid of this thing, along with those weird smoke snakes. There's some instrument that the facilitators play. I have no idea what it is, but they strike it with their finger and then they adjust the pitch with their mouth. It kind of sounds like a frog. But when I'm in that headspace, I absolutely despise it. I mean, every single ceremony that I've ever sat through, when they do that, it drives me nuts. Oddly enough, as soon as I realized I needed to get rid of these demons, she started to play the frog thing. The nausea began to build very quickly, and I hopped up over the bucket. I threw up a few times, but then just repeatedly dry heaved. I couldn't seem to get it all out. The frog sounds came to an end, and I was just there in silence, still trying to fight to get the demons out. In the previous ceremony, when I was stuck in that death loop, I remember thinking, I wish they would just play some song that was comforting and could help me out right now. Typically, my favorite songs that they play in the ceremony are either Hare Krishna or Hallelujah, but neither of those songs came on during that horrific ceremony. After the silence following the frog sounds, I heard a guitar, and there it was, Hallelujah. It's often played near the end of the ceremony, so everybody chimes in, and it's this grounding experience that calms the whole room down. It seemed to be that way for everybody else, but for me, it worked like an exorcism. I immediately shot back to the bucket, and while everybody sang this beautiful song together, I purged everything that needed to come out. I mean, it was odd for everybody to be in cheerful spirits while I was over the bucket, letting everything go. And I mean, I almost felt like I was ruining the song with my purges. I could still see that weird alien creature in my mind's eye while I was vomiting, but with each purge, it faded away slowly until that final purge, it was completely gone and the vision just faded to black. From that darkness came an amazing vision of a powerful lion. It was shades of blue with piercing white eyes, and it seemed to be like emanating electricity. Without question, it was clear to me that my spirit animal is a lion. I had to laugh because the very first vision I saw on my very first mushroom journey was a lion in the clouds. If my first experience was intended to be a vision quest of sorts, trying to find my spirit animal, then it was shown to me immediately. The podcast episode in which I discussed that first mushroom trip, I explained how I realized years later that the phoenix that I saw afterwards symbolized death and rebirth, but that I quote, "I'm still not sure what that line was all about." Fast forward to that cannabis-assisted psychotherapy session that I did with Carol, and when she pulled the tarot card, it was of a cat, and she asked if it held any significance for me, and I said nope, other than that I'm allergic to cats. And then there was that vision I had in the mushroom trip with Anthony of the blue cat lady in that bizarre carpet world. One of my hypnotherapy teachers, Edwin, had explained to me that when we commune with our higher self, it very often is a woman. How interesting that everyone under the influence of ayahuasca seems to see a blue woman. And my blue woman had cat ears and a tail. It became so obvious through this whole journey that my spirit animal is a lion, but somehow I missed it. The message came through that I need to embrace this strong and powerful animal because that's what I am. My attention was quickly turned to the plot of The Lion King. I was 9 years old when that movie came out, and I was a huge fan. It showed me that I was this timid young child like Simba. And after some trauma, I left home. I ended up in a bizarre tropical paradise of Southern California, full of hippies like Timon and Pumbaa, where I met so many interesting teachers who have put me on a new path in life. The message was, you are no longer a timid young cub. You are a lion. Be that lion. With that, the ceremony was called to an end. As usual, I made my way to the car. I threw on my newest plant medicine playlist, and I watched the stars as I enjoyed the music and sent good vibes to all of my loved ones. All in all, it was a wonderful experience. Much, much better than that previous ceremony. The next morning, we did the share circle. It was very lighthearted, a lot of laughs. Everyone said their goodbyes and started leaving. I had a woman come up to me after, and she asked if I had recently lost a dog. I told her that I had. Mind you, I was wearing that bullet shirt in ceremony, but I didn't say anything to anyone about trying to contact him. She asked, a male dog? Was he white? I agreed, and she said he came to me. She said, I thought it was my dog at first, but I figured it would be weird for him to come to me in this space, and then I realized it was a dog who had passed, and he was here to visit someone. She said that he wanted to pass along the message that he was on the other side and everything is okay. She said that if there was any worry about him not transitioning because of euthanasia, to set that aside because animals can still transition when they depart in such a way. Mind you, I didn't say anything to anybody about how he had passed or anything along those lines. So very bizarre to her to come up with, male dog, white dog, and his life was terminated with euthanasia. So I teared up a bit and I thanked her for sharing the message. I gave my final hugs to the facilitators and headed back down the mountain. Now going back to that weird rhomboid demon, I kid you not, I didn't have a lick of back pain for several weeks that followed. It very slowly returned, but I learned from my teacher Edwin that when you clear something from your body in that other realm, it's important to put something in its place so that nothing nefarious can return. Lesson learned. With that, I have officially shared my last journal entry. At this point, I'm out of solo casts. I'm scheduled to head to the desert in a few weeks for ceremonies 9 and 10, which will likely leave me with something to report on. But in the meantime, I will put forth more effort to get some more guests on so that there's not too much of a lull between episodes. I've also been considering doing a Q&A podcast, so if anyone out there has any questions for myself or any of the other guests who have been on here in the past 30 episodes, please send them to tripreport@gmail.com, spelled just like the podcast. And if there's enough interest, I'll get going on the Q&A episode. I also want to take a moment to share my gratitude with everyone who has listened to this podcast. When I uploaded the last episode, I glanced at the metrics, and there have been over 2,500 listens. I also continue to receive positive feedback from so many people, and that really drives me to keep going. I have so much fun hearing stories from others and sharing my own, so I assure you I will continue to keep this going. As always, Thanks for listening. Love you guys.